Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Checking In. I'm Leon Thomas. Our co host, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch, is not with us today. We miss her and look forward to having her back with us on the next episode of Checking In. Here on Checking In, we talk about everything that's hotel related or even related to the hospitality business. We talk about products, we talk about services, and we talk about the people of the business, people in the business. If you would like to be a guest on Checking In, there's two ways to do it. Number one, you can send me an email. My name is Leon. You can send the email to leon at the leonthomasgroup.com, or you can reach out to Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. She's the only one. So if you go to Google, Bing, or wherever else you do your search, and you put in Miranda Kitterlin Lynch, her contact info is going to come up, and you can get in touch with her. And you just drop us a line that says, "Hi, I'm me, and I'd like to be on your show." And one of us will get in touch with you and bring you on to Checking In. So we're looking forward to having you as a guest on Checking In. And maybe it's not you that you think you should be on the show. Maybe it's someone else that you'd like to recommend to us be on the show. We'd love to have you right here on Checking In. Our guest today is a hotel industry veteran, Phil Haddad. Let's bring Phil on. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Hello, Leon. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. I'm well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Phil, tell us about you. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us what you do, what you've done. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, Leon, if I can just go off topic a little bit, I want to thank you for what you do for the kids in your racquetball group. I think it's amazing. I am, as you probably know, you follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very involved, not with racquetball, but another youth movement, and I think it's life changing stuff when you're mentoring, as you probably know, when you're mentoring kids and making a difference in life. And I just want to thank you for what you do because I know doing it myself, it gives so much back to the community, and thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you, Phil. I appreciate those comments. You're talking about our youth racquetball program in Baltimore called Racquetball Revival. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, as you probably know, I do a lot right now on LinkedIn. I do a lot of sales leads, do operational stuff, and I met so many new people. And I say meet, it's funny because on LinkedIn, you think you meet them when they've sent you a message all of a sudden, like you've known them for years, but they've sent you one message. So, I've met a lot of people on LinkedIn, mostly on the sales side. From my leads that I put out there, and it's most of my leads are through the state, primarily state of Texas. Some reach beyond the state of Texas, but I do a lot of that. I put operational stuff out there, which obviously crosses any state line, right? Hotel safety in Utah is the same as in Texas and in New York and whatever. So I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the feedback. I learn a lot because I'll get feedback from people. Send me, hey, how about this, and or how about that, or thanks for that, or you forgot this. So I really, really enjoy the interaction with the hotel community. And as you know, it's a small world. You and I met years ago at training, whatever. It's a small world, and it's great to keep in touch and meet new people as you go.
Yeah, it is a small world for sure, and it is always good to meet new people and listen to their ideas and so forth. And I've been reading, monitoring, some of the things that you put out, a lot of what you put out on LinkedIn, especially for a couple of years now. And as I look at a lot of it, I'm like, yeah, wow, why didn't someone else think of this? Or this is something that the industry and professionals in the industry need to be reminded of. So tell us about your background. Tell us kind of your hospitality story.
Yeah, interesting enough, my I do a lot of LinkedIn about sales, but my background where you grow up was primarily operations. I started in hotels and operations, where we front office manager, even general manager, and most select service. It is highly operational based, housekeeping and things of that nature. Um, I was involved in the sales part early on when my first job. my first GM job was at Town Place Suites in Arlington, Texas. And back then, you went to training for like a month, and you were at this training course, and you were there, and there was nothing else in your life. And part of it was sales. And back then, the GM was required to do, I want to say, I don't remember now, 15 calls a week. I don't remember. I don't remember now, but it was a correlation of cold calls, appointment calls, and things of that nature. And I distinctly remember I was brand new at this. I didn't know what I was doing in sales. I just, I went to this course. I came back, and of course, I thought I knew everything. Well, no one ever told me you don't walk into a business on lunch hour, which is what I did. I walked into and I won't say name of the company online, but in Grand Prairie, Texas, right next to Arlington, Grand Prairie, Texas, a major company who makes engines for airplanes. I walked in there on lunch hour. Again, here I am. I'm fresh out of training. Let me speak, needs, benefits, features, who makes the decisions, and all this other stuff. I walk in here. And there's like no one there except the receptionist. I'm talking to her, and she says, well, everyone, as you can see, everyone's at lunch right now. I'm like, oh, okay, well, here I go. Again, very green. Well, who's the decision maker here? I just go right into who's the decision maker. She must have known I was green. She's very pleasant. And it happened to be the HR director was covering the phones. Everyone was at lunch that day. And I happened to land my very first big piece of business. It was for summer interns.
Wow.
It was one of the biggest pieces, not the biggest, but one of the biggest pieces of business I ever landed in my life, even to this day. And I broke all the rules. I went at lunch hour, not supposed to do that. And I went in, there was, this whole checklist of things. I need no decision maker. I need to know the organizational chart. I'm just going down my line because I just came out of training and you can't stop me now. And
right.
She was so gracious. I looked back and I thought, wow, what a big break she cut me, because I was, probably a little bit over the top.
Yeah. And she happened to be the HR director.
She was covering the phones. I guess they rotate, different people cover phones different days. She was like the only one in this building where I was at, in this office. It was lunch hours, like 12 noon. And later I learned, my boss told me, you may want to stay away from lunch hours. It's probably not the best time to go into an office, but hey. So that was my first dab in sales, and throughout I've done it, and I enjoy it. Although again, I grew up kind of operations, but I enjoy sales. It's as a GM, as you know, Leon, if you don't make the top line, you're not going to make the bottom line. The way to make top line is through sales. So you kind of, even if it's not your forte, you better get used to it.
That's right. You have to spend some time in sales. It's something that when I grew up in the business, one of the things that a management company that I worked with for 14 years really ingrained in us were two things. One, the GM has to be involved in sales, and the GM has to inspect rooms. Right, those are things that you need to do. And that company used to make their GM offices on new construction properties, I mean, like small. Like you could fit a Formica countertop in there, a chair, and a file cabinet, and that was it. And it was designed because they didn't want you spending time in the office, right? You needed to be out with your team members on the floor, and of course involved in sales. Yeah. So from those experiences, very similar to you learn to get out, right? Go sell. Yeah. So tell me this now, from what I've been reading, some of your great information on LinkedIn is a lot of tips, a lot of things that hotels should be doing. And it's just amazing to me as I talk to hotel general managers and sales managers that they're not doing a lot of the basics that you recommend to them. So give us, let's say, maybe the top 3 or 4 things that are really basics that hotel sales and GMs should be doing, but they don't. I know, folks, you can go to Phil's LinkedIn to learn more. He's just going to give us the highlights now. So do not go to Phil's LinkedIn just because he's giving us some information here. We still want you to go there. Go ahead, Phil. Give us like the top 3 or 4 things that folks just are missing.
I don't think it's people don't want to do it. You get busy in the day, and I think sometimes, with labor shortages, tight labor models, I think sometimes, you get caught in the weeds, if you will. So I don't think anything I say is probably earth shaking. I think sometimes what I say is, oh yeah, yes, I got to get back to that. I think that's
Hmm.
more what I do is kind of a reminder. I got to get back to that.
Hmm.
Um, sometimes oh, sometimes even the very basics can be a challenge because you get so busy. Um, even something simple as key control, because you have a turnover and because things move so fast that you've got to go back to that last front desk clerk and delete their key code or signing code. Very basic things. Fire drill. I just did a thing the other day about fire panels.
Hmm.
I was covering a night audit shift the other day for a hotel, and the fire alarm off at 1 a.m. The fire department took 25 to 30 minutes to get there, which was a long time.
Oh,
Thank God it wasn't a fire.
yeah.
But I had been trained before a lot on fire panels, but I realized not everyone's had that. Not everyone's had that privilege. Not everyone's been able to have that training for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Nothing's ever happened to a fire panel. They never had to deal with it, whatever. So I've dealt with fire panels, but I did a quick thing on fire panels and how to train your front desk because it was clear to me in that minute it would have been very simple for someone who's not trained well to have said to the guest, "Oh, everything is fine. Go back to your room. I don't smell smoke." Well, you may not smell the lobby, but someone on the fifth floor may smell it. So that whole thing of who's going to give the all clear, what are the steps to getting to that point of the all clear? Because it was very easy just to hit silence and say, "Okay, everything is fine because I don't smell smoke," when we all know that's not the case. But for someone who's not trained very well, goes the alarm, I hit silent, the thing stops, life is good, let's go on. When we all know in reality, unfortunately, it's not that simple. So I do a lot of stuff like that. They're just basic things that sometimes people forget. Um, everyday occurrence in hotels, like stepping away from the front desk area, we have a podium, makes all the difference in the world in GSS. If you just walk away, where's the restroom? If you just walk a little bit, you take 10 steps over there and then an open hand gesture right down the hallway here to your right, makes a huge difference. Again, it's not everyone knows this, but we forget about it. We get in the weeds, things happen.
Hmm.
Like you drive your car, you forgot the oil change. Oops, I better go get my oil change. I kind of think of it like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and again, you mentioned that it's not that folks don't know that they haven't been trained. It's just that so much goes on, right? And it's easy to get stuck in the woods, in the weeds, and just not get things done. What about because you and I grew up, in the business before there was heavy technology, right? And we've both been able to stay in tune, in touch with what's going on. How about the use of Chat GPT? What do you see happening there?
I love Chat GPT. My son, who's just turned 20, thinks I overuse it, which is kind of amazing. Like, I overuse it? You're 20. What do you mean I overuse it? Um, you wrote this stuff. I have found it, and I've done a lot of LinkedIn this week and last week. I've done a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. I just put a PDF file on LinkedIn for Chat GPT for salespeople. The information you can find on Chat GPT, which is very simple questions, is mind baffling. It's just not to use it, you're really cheating yourself. It is just, you cut so much time out of finding out who's who and where to go. It just tells you right there. It tells you about your competition. It tells you about what's going on, what's being built in the area. It tells you about your how you're perceived in the community as well. So there's so much to put, or so much to use Chat GPT for. I think I put out 20 prompts the other day for salespeople. None of them are earth shaking, but the information that gets back to you is life changing.
Hmm.
It saves you from going into to the to the place at lunch hour and acting like a fool and asking for the org chart. It gives you the org chart right there. You don't have to ask for it anymore. So it really just it clears the deck from all the busy paperwork. I think all the research, it can just really quickly get to it. You want to know where crew rooms are at. You want to know, um, you know, who this person, via their email, you can find who this person reports to, different people within the organization. So much information, and I really just I think it's great. And I think front desk agents should use it more. I put out a thing the other day about, again, simple, but calculator. Chat GPT is so much faster than a calculator. And you work the front desk and you get someone comes up there and they want to know the rate and you tell them it's $99 plus tax and they want the breakdown. Well, how much is the tax and how much is rate? And if I say 3 nights, you put that Chat GPT one little line, it breaks all out for you. You can show the guest everything, night by night by night by night by night. It's just it's a great tool.
Yeah,
it's better than Google, and I thought Google was everything.
better than Google.
Better than Google, my
Wow.
friend. Better than Google.
Ooh.
Not better than racquetball, but better than Google.
Well, you're right. Nothing's better than racquetball. Okay, yes, we can't go there. We've got to know that nothing's better than racquetball. Not even that new game that people are playing that begins with a P. Not even that is better than racquetball. Folks, we're talking with Phil Haddad here at Checking In. Phil is a hotel industry veteran, has a great deal of knowledge in sales and operations, and on his LinkedIn, just about 3, 4 times a week, there's great information. But also, you should contact Phil if you need help at your hotel, help in sales, operations, whatever. He's the guy. He's the person you want to reach out to. Let me make sure that Phil, that everyone has your contact information now before we go to a commercial break, so they can reach you via email. That's philtravelforyou@gmail.com. And you even have the phone number available. Folks, you can reach Phil directly on phone, 832-964-4764. And also, Phil, your LinkedIn profile is available as well. So they can go right there and to find information and contact you and follow you and connect with you and all of that stuff. You folks, you want to be connected to Phil. So knowledgeable and just a great resource, a great resource to be able to help you. Phil, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back from break, we're going to talk some more about sales and operations. And then we're both going to share some stories of, wow, can you believe that happened? What did you do? Like those horror stories that at the time we were dealing with it, it wasn't funny. But then when we look back on it, we're like, oh, wow, it was a lot of fun. Because we need to show folks that the hospitality industry can be a lot of fun, right? It can be an awful lot of fun. So we're going to do that. Folks, you're watching Checking In. I'm Leon Thomas. Our co-host Miranda Kidderman Lynch is unable to be with us today. Our guest today is Phil Haddad. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Announcing the newest show from the Leon Thomas Group, Cooking with Kids in the Kitchen.
Each week, we're going to have kids on the show in their home kitchen, showing us their culinary expertise right here on Cooking with Kids in the Kitchen. If you know of a kid that would be great to have on Cooking with Kids in the Kitchen, contact Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group.
His email address is leon@theleonthomasgroup.com.
That's Leon@theleonthomasgroup.com.
Cooking with Kids in the Kitchen.
At Rod's Car Repairs, we work on all cars, old cars, new cars, and your car. Car Repairs by Rod.io.
Baked by Brianna has been your Baltimore hometown bakery since 1969. Located in Roxton Plaza, Baked by Brianna. Visit bakedbybrianna.io.
From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. podcast, virtual events, webinars, streaming shows, and so much more. We want to be your partner in all things virtual.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Checking In. Leon Thomas with our guest today, Phil Haddad. If you need help, you'd like to have some digital marketing, digital advertising for your company, contact the Leon Thomas Group. All the ads that you saw there were all done by the Leon Thomas Group. Our website is theleonthomasgroup.com, or you can contact me directly. That's Leon at theleonthomasgroup.com. Phil, when we first came on the show, you talked about and mentioned, gave me some kudos about the racquetball program, racquetballrevival.com. Tell us what you do. I think you're involved with the schools in Texas as a volunteer. Tell us some about that.
I am with a volunteer for First Robotics. I've been into now 7 years, I guess it is 6, 7 years with robotics, high school robotics team, and I love it. I'm a mentor for a robotics team, and anyone who knows me would probably like you. I've learned so much. What I learned from these kids is amazing. It's funny because I grew up. My father died when I was a very young age, so I never really grew up in that typical household where the dad was teaching kids how to use a drill and a saw. That was never anything I experienced because, again, my father passed away when I was like in 6th grade. So I never had that. Well, in robotics, there is a whole machine shop from CNC machines, drills. I went through my own whole life up until this point, really not knowing any of this stuff. And I've learned all this stuff. I learned all about these tools and all this stuff, and not to mention technology stuff, but just the basics. And I look at it now. One of my responsibilities in robotics is the tool shop. Is in the back where they're using the saws and the drills, safety and all this stuff. And I would never picture that of myself before this because I really knew nothing about it. I didn't grow up in the atmosphere. I had a mother but not a father, and just never did that. So it's been really rewarding for me. Watching these kids grow. My son was in the program for 4 years. He's since graduated. He's been on the program now 2 years, and I'm still in it. I'm still doing mentorship. I do it twice a week or 3 times a week or 4 times a week, depending on the time of year. Summertime, not so much because it kind of dies down in summertime. But it's been an amazing experience and watching these kids grow and learning the latest technology. And it somewhat keeps me a little bit young because now my son has moved out and away. I still know the latest slang and the latest lingo from this generation. So I enjoy that part of it. I really enjoy the interaction with the kids and all I'm able to give them. But to be honest with you, they give me so much more. But it's an amazing experience, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon with robotics. Even though my son's out of the program, I'm going to keep on it because I really love it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I could tell from your post that you really love what you're doing there as a volunteer, but also just hearing you talk about it, I can see how passionate you are. And I'm sure that the kids that you're working with, that they appreciate you so much for what you do. Even if you may not be the greatest expert with the tools, it's just the idea that you're giving them time. Right. And often that's what they need. So thank you for what you're doing. Now, I am very limited when it comes to my use of tools. I have a hammer and a screwdriver somewhere around my home, and I don't know where either of them are. Okay. I once broke a ceiling fan changing the light bulb. Okay.
Was it hard to break it?
Oh, no, it was easy. I wasn't trying to break it. I just took the old bulb out, put the new one in, and turned it. And it didn't feel secure, so I turned it. And it didn't feel secure, so I turned it some more. And the fan wouldn't work and the light wouldn't come on. We called an electrician. He got up on the ladder. I guess that's the first problem. I was trying to reach up there. I was standing on a chair. I didn't get a ladder. And he says, "Who's been playing around up here? The wires are all twisted." And I went,
Are you talking to me?
It's not my. That's right, right. That's exactly what I was doing. It's not my calling. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not me.
I've learned about tools. I have learned a lot about them. I've actually learned about CNC machines, which is something I knew nothing about. I've learned a lot about it, and I'm like I said, I'm in charge of the back of the robotics band. That's where I live, if you will. We
Right.
all of us mentors kind of have like little homes where we live in. Some are
Okay.
there with the coding team, some with the outreach team, some
Mhm.
wherever they are. But mine's in the back, so I have a saying: if you came with 10 fingers when you leave today, it's my responsibility you leave with 10 fingers. You came with 9, fine, you leave with 9. That's kind of my responsibility. And again, I learned all this from robotics because I didn't grow up in a household that used tools.
Yeah.
Father passed away at a young age, and I just never occurred to me. And now it's
Right.
amazing.
Good. Right on. Well,
Thanks to
thank
them.
you. Yeah. Thank you again for what you do. Phil, let me ask you this, and we're gonna talk about this subject, and then we'll get into our signature questions of the show. The thing that I want to talk about now is when there are a lot of times in the career in hotels and hospitality, you're a new manager, you're a new general manager, you're a new director of sales, you're new to an existing building, right? What are some things that you would do? Give us some tips. Let's go on the sales side of it. If you were new coming into a hotel, what are some things you would look at to help improve sales?
Well, I think that obviously a great deal as a great sales manager obviously is baseline, but I think that a front desk staff who is trained on basic leads, so much information comes across the front desk, and if they don't know what they don't know. So if a guest checks in at 9 o'clock at night and says, "I'm the HR director for Macy's and we're opening a new store 2 miles down the street," if that front desk clerk hasn't been trained, they don't know that's important. You're just another guest, and hey, enjoy your stay. You're in room 333. Have a good day. But if they are trained properly, or I should say properly, if the opportunity is given to them to explore that opportunity of sales, they would know that, hey, that's a big deal. That person in 333 is a big deal, a really big deal, and I need to funnel this information onto A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this myself as a GM, we get in this thing of, we want that nightly recap. We're really obsessed with who do we have to take a plunger to last night? Who needs extra towels? Where's that service recovery? Which is all great.
Uh-huh.
But we don't always put on there, hey, you got any sales leads for me? Like what happened last night? Who checked in last night? Besides the guest leisure, who else checked in last night? So
Right.
I think that is critical for to do that. That's number one. And then number two, I think you have to be confident in your hotel. I think the salesperson who's representing your hotel has to be confident. Has to be confident in the product and the people working in the hotel. I think without that, it's a hard sell, right? Trying to sell something you don't really believe in. So I think if that's not there, you need to work on building that, because I think that's critical.
hmm I love what you talked about there, both examples, and particularly having the front desk supply leads, right? That means that's a guest that's already staying in your building. That's potentially a company that's already there, right? And you don't have to start knocking on all the doors saying, "Hey, how about giving us a try?" They're already there. But it also teaches the front office team some really introductory areas of sales, right? At the importance of asking what brings you here, or what company are you with, or anything like that. So that's hot stuff, and it's simple to do, but it often isn't done because the front office team isn't reminded to do it, or they're not told to do it, or they don't see the value in it. So I'm wow. See, that's what I mean. It's basic things like that, and you take a little basic over here, a little basic here, and piece it together, and that
Yeah,
you've got success.
and it also breaks up the mundaneness. Sometimes front desk, it can be somewhat mundane at times. It can be somewhat routine. It really puts a whole new level, shines a new light on front office. I think when they're properly trained, I think they enjoy that. Most people, they enjoy that. Hey, I got something else I can do. I can kind of go on an exploring mission tonight. I can,
hmm
it gives me another reason what to talk to the guest about, to engage with
Yeah.
the guest, rather than, what floor do you like? Oh, thank you for being a platinum member. The whole
Right.
spiel, the whole script that we go through. Give me something else to talk about, because I do that, 28 times a night. What else is there? And this is a perfect opportunity to learn, not only to engage with the guests, but learn a new skill.
Yeah.
And maybe you're the next DOS of the hotel.
Right. Sure. I like it. I like it. Phil, let's share some funny horror at the time, funny later stories here. I'll give you mine first. So I'm working the front desk at a Hampton Inn at the Baltimore airport, and a guest is checking out, and he has on a white suit, all white, tie, shirt, shoes, everything is white. And as he's checking out, we hear right above our heads, and as I was handing him his final bill, the ceiling broke. A sewage pipe goes all over his white suit.
Ouch.
Yes, all over his suit. And he didn't get mad at all. He says, well, I don't know how the rest of the day is gonna go, but it can't get much worse than this. And we're all like, what? First of all, it's like, how did this happen? Right? But secondly, he had on a white suit for a reason. What can we do to recover from the white suit? And we're like, sir, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. We're so sorry. Maybe we can get this to a dry cleaner. He's like, I'm not wearing that again. That's got sludge all over it. I'm not wearing this again. And he was really, really cool about it. And he told us that he was in computer sales, and that when he met with a client the first time, he wore a white suit to be memorable. Right?
Ah, okay.
Right? That was his gig. So we're like, do you have more clothes to wear? He's like, yeah, I'll just go on and put on a sweatsuit. I'll put on my gym clothes. That'll be just as memorable as a white suit. And sure enough, he goes up, showers up, comes back down, and looking like Richard Simmons in gym wear. Right, and goes sees the client, comes back and goes, I got him, I sold, they'll never forget me. And he's like, I'll never forget the Hampton Inn BWI either. I'll never forget the experience here. So
Well, the white suit was memorable in many ways, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. So let's hear one of yours.
One of them, it didn't involve a guest, but I was at a courtyard, and it was QA time, and they come unannounced. I know nowadays it's changed some of the brands, but pretty much the same. The QA person came unannounced anyway. And back then the rule was very simple. There was no daylight between this rule. And that is, whatever rooms, you give them a list of vacant ready rooms, that's the list he's going off of. And there's no exception. So the front desk better not check one into it, better not do anything else, because that is the one he is going to score no matter what. Well, he goes in the room, and I see, as you open the door open, I see a pillow on the floor. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. We go into this room, and half the room was like clean. It was a room with 2 beds. There's trash in one thing, and the bed was unmade. Long story short, what happened, the front desk did a room move the night before because there's something wrong with the room. Instead of changing that room to vacant dirty, they changed it to vacant ready, and the housekeeping supervisor hadn't had a chance to walk out of rooms that morning. And we walk in this room, and it's, like I said, half dirty, half clean, if you will. And the guy at the QA says, one of the things I have had the liberty to choose which bed I want to inspect. And I'm going to inspect that bed, the bed that wasn't touched. Wow. He was so nice. I mean, he tried. I mean, believe me, that room didn't score well, but it didn't sink our battleship either. Yeah. He tried to be so nice. And it taught me a couple of things. It taught me we got some training to do. It also taught me a lesson in understanding people's pains as he understood mine. Yeah. He could have really made our day really bad, and he opted to show some mercy. And I've never forgotten that. I never forgotten the lessons I learned from that incident, because, he took a trash can and had like a newspaper in it, but he didn't take the trash can in the bathroom that had, whatever. So he did his job, but he found ways to make it as pleasing as possible. And I never forgot his generosity. He showed compassion. At the same time, he did his job. And that's a lesson I think that all of us can learn from time to time. So we get sometimes back into the weeds again. We get, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Things happen. And sometimes you need to, you need to be that person doing that. But other times you need to back up and show some compassion because things happen, and what you make of it is important. And what he did for me, I've never forgotten.
Absolutely. That's great. Yep. Great story about compassion. Yeah. Phil, it's now time as we get toward the end of our show. It's now time for our 2 signature questions. Do you have a pen, or act like can you
Yes,
pretend
sir.
that you
I've
do?
got one.
All right, bring your pen up, and it's now, let's see your signature. Bring it over to the camera. Drop it down so we can see that signature. Bring
Well, the
it
pen's kind
down.
of imaginary.
Yeah, right there. Here we
Here we
go.
go. You
It's
ready?
now time for the 2 signature questions of the show. Okay, so it's 3 questions.
Okay.
We just won't change the video because it's great when people email me to say, Leon, you said there were 2 questions. There's actually 3. That lets me know that folks are watching the show. So we keep it at 2 signature questions. All right, here's the first one, Phil. Have you ever had a Maryland crab cake?
Have what?
A Maryland crab cake.
That'd be a no.
Not had a Maryland crab cake. Have you had a crab cake at all?
That would be a no.
Oh, wow. We'll have to figure out a way to get a Maryland crab cake.
I need to go to Maryland, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, we could send them to you. Yes, it would still be a Maryland crab cake. But if someone who goes to a restaurant in Kansas and it says Maryland style crab cake, that's not a Maryland crab cake.
So I can't get a Maryland crab cake here in Texas. That's what you're saying.
You can't do it unless it's shipped to you from Maryland.
Maryland.
Yes, then you could have a Maryland crab cake. Or maybe someone like one of our producers lives in Texas. Maybe they know how to make a Maryland crab cake.
Oh, you can make them in Texas.
You can see, but it has to be from someone who's from Maryland, though. It can't be like someone from Texas making a crab cake. You get the idea. It's got to have a Maryland connection.
So if Leon Thomas showed up in my kitchen tonight, he can make me a Maryland crab cake here in Texas.
That would be a Maryland crab cake. Yes.
Okay. And on your show, Cooking with Kids, do they make Maryland crab cakes?
We have not had anyone make a Maryland crab cake.
Okay.
Yes. When we ran the show a couple of years ago, no one wanted to make a crab cake. And so we're hoping that some of our new members of that crew will make a Maryland crab cake. But so far, nothing. No Maryland crab cakes. Okay. All right. Here we go. Question number 2. Have you ever had bean pie?
No, I saw your thing the other day. I was following that.
No,
I never even heard of bean pie.
Never heard of bean pie.
Not until I saw it the other day with you. No, sir.
So Miranda would love to hear you say, I've never heard of bean pie. But until earlier this week, she probably thought that it didn't exist. But once we had the tasting at the Hilton Baltimore BWI, now I think everyone knows that bean pie really exists. It's a thing. It is a thing. All right, Phil, here's our more serious question. What advice or words of wisdom would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Be more patient. I look at times, and if I'd been more patient, things would have turned out different, usually better. I tend to lack patience. I've forced myself to be more patient now. Step back, think about it. I tend to be very quick to make decisions. And as I've learned, that's not always a good thing. I think I habit forms because in hotels, sometimes you're forced to make quick decisions. You know, you talked about the white suit and the sewage thing. You're quickly thinking, oh, good. Oh, my God. Oh, right. Dry cleaners, right? So you make quick decisions. And I think I let that kind of overtake myself. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Not everything needs to be a quick decision, and need to sit back and relax. And I tell my son this all the time. I tell him, don't rush to the decision. Sleep on it overnight. Mm-hmm. And someone once told me a saying, and I'll never forget it. If you're not remembered a year from now, it's probably not that important. And I use that a lot in my life. If I'm not remembered a year from now, it's probably not important. So sit back, relax, think about it, and then act on it.
Right on. I like it. Phil, it's been great having you here on Checking In. I want to remind everyone on how they can get in touch with you. You can reach Phil via email His email address is philtravelforyou@gmail.com. His phone number is 832-964-4764. And check out his LinkedIn profile. A lot of great information there. If you just go linkedin.com/in, like everyone's LinkedIn handle begins with anyway, and just put PHADDAD, Haddad. That way you can get in touch with Phil. Has some great information, very knowledgeable and expert in many areas of hotels. And you want to follow Phil, you want to get to know Phil and let Phil know how he can help you. Phil, thanks again for being with us here on
Yeah, it was
Checking
great
In.
seeing you again. Take care, my friend.
Great seeing you. Thank you, Phil. And I'll see you in the green room right after the show. Folks, thanks again for watching Checking In. If you'd like to be a guest on Checking In, you can contact me, Leon, at the LeonThomasGroup.com is my email address. Or you can contact our co-host, Miranda Kitterlin Lynch. All you do is just Google her name and her contact information will show up. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching Checking In. Take care.